Greetings, fellow travelers. My name is Captain Olimar. During my time here in PNF 404, I've encountered many strange and wonderful artifacts, some to please the eye, and others to nourish the body and soul. Our local treasure enthusiast, Snows, has meticulously cataloged each of these items within their respective series. Today, I wish to add my personal observations to this growing compendium. We begin with, let's see here. Wait, this isn't right. Confounded, where's that note? Ah yes, the Rubber Cutie series, beginning with Universal Rubber Cutie. The first time I laid eyes on this treasure, I thought it was a giant aquatic monster. It took me a few paralyzing seconds to realize that it's just a statue. What a relief. If such an attractive creature were to attack me, I'd be too entranced to run away. Planetary Rubber Cutie has well-proportioned facial features and a smooth exterior. Its hollow interior allows it to float on water. I thought long and hard about what creature inspired this treasure, and before I knew it, I was petting its beak. I'm powerless in the face of cuteness. Stately Rubber Cutie. Compared to the other treasures found, this sculpture is tiny, yet with its beak turned courageously upward and its round eyes brimming with the spirit of adventure, I can't help but admire its gallant image. Beauty really can be found around any corner. Dapper Rubber Cutie. When I was a kid, I coveted a black leather jacket that hung in a shop window. It was so cool. I begged my parents to buy it for me, but they just scoffed in my face. So I saved up my pocket change for months and finally bought it myself. It turns out wearing a leather jacket during the peak of a Hogotate summer is a shortcut to getting a heat stroke. That was the last time I ever tried to be cool. And now we have the Sweetooth Series, starting with Sweet Stumble Knot. A gigantic brightly colored stick of candy adorned with a ribbon. My guess is that it was meant to be a gift for a child, and would be a great souvenir to bring back to my own kids. I'll need to keep a close eye on the spaceship's temperature to prevent its melting during transport. Sweet Torrent. I hear this item was discovered in a bright and open area, unlike other caves I've encountered. What's more, it was presented on a large silver plate. I wonder why it was there. Is it a form of entertainment for visiting guests? Or maybe we are the guests. Deceptive Snack. It's sweet, but not too sweet. Salty, but not overly so. It tastes like something a more refined palate would appreciate. Perhaps belonging to someone whose tastes were developed over the course of many years. Cookie of Nibbled Circles. Stealing a bite of food before it's been served is quite rude, but I understand the impulse. My son and I are always waiting outside the kitchen, itching to try whatever my wife's been cooking. Thankfully, she finds it charming, or we'd have to curtail the habit. Cookie of Prosperity. This pattern always reminds me of our family game nights. We like to play board games, but it would be even more enjoyable if we could eat the boards after. I was curious to know if the flavor was as playful as the design, so I took a bite. Tastes normal. Vanishing Cookie. Sweets don't simply disappear of their own accord. There has to be some sort of scientific explanation. To test my theory, I've laid out the cookies and I am waiting. Normally I'd have given in to my urge to eat them, but I must stay strong. Love's Fortune Cookie. Before we got married, my wife took a compatibility test to assess our relationship. It was all for a laugh, but we got 120%, indicating we would be eternally happy together. I don't really believe in all that fortune-telling stuff, but that test got it right. Hearty container. In my line of work, encountering tough situations and feeling like your life is in danger is all a part of the job. But something about this cookie makes me feel like I have the strength to make it through. Like I have an extra heart if my first one runs out. Jiggle jiggle. Children are fascinated by jiggling objects like this. I know my kids would lose their mind if they encountered this gelatinous tower. I consider myself a mature adult, and even I'm fighting the urge to climb to the top of this jiggling hill. S.S. Berry. At our wedding, our friends gave my wife and me a spaceship-shaped cake that looked a lot like this one. It wasn't as big, but it resonated with my dreams of exploring space. Of course, my dreams are slightly different now, but I'm happy I still have my wife by my side. S.S. Peppermint. One whiff of this brings me back to the long days of summer, eating ice cream with my kids. This fragrance smells like their favorite flavor, bright and refreshing. At first, I didn't want to try it, but my children insisted. Now it's my favorite ice cream flavor too. S.S. Chocolate. My wife and I have been together for a long while, but our relationship has never been as perfectly poised as this cake. Maybe it's because I'm always flying around space, and she's at home, trying to keep things together. We are really due for a date night. We have now arrived at the Dazzle Series, beginning with the Unbreakable Promise. It's a common practice to present an expensive gift to your intended when you propose. I didn't have the means to do so when my wife and I became engaged, and I've always regretted that fact. But at least I still love her as much as I did then. Golden Vaulting Table. Apparently, if you can jump over this, you'll be blessed with great wealth. I'm not the superstitious type, but I'm tempted to give it a try. I could use the extra cash. The only thing standing in my way are my poor middle-aged hip joints. Olfactory Sculpture. It's a multi-sensory art experience. You've got the flicker of the flame, the texture of the body, and that glorious scent that just melts into your surroundings. It's so soothing and calming. I'm getting a bit sleepy here. Is it a sleep... Next. Princess Pearl. My daughters love shiny jewels and trinkets for as long as I can remember. She used to be happy enough with pretty stones and pieces of sea glass, but now all she wants are the more illustrious items like this. That doesn't bode well for my wallet's future. Sticky Jewel. This gemstone is large, but it looks kind of cheap. I've only just started to accept that one day someone might propose to my own daughter with a gift like this. I know I should probably give that person a warm welcome, but I already don't like them. Hoop of Healing. I read somewhere that some colors can have certain effects on your body. This color seems to calm my mind and help me recover my composure when I'm feeling frazzled in the field. It has an almost healing effect. Hoop of Passion. The science of colors intrigues me. For example, I can feel my instincts sharpen and my zest for life intensify when I gaze upon this hue. What would happen if I were to walk through this ring with my wife? Perhaps its powers could reenact the spark between us. Hoop of Fortune. People tend to gather with those who are like-minded, and eventually they become friends and partners. If you want to build a circle of good friends, you must be the kind of person whose company you enjoy. Then you find companionship with yourself as well. And now we reach the Recreation Recollection. I could use a few of these tools myself. So here we have the Tandem Trainer. I'm no longer trying to catch anyone's eye, but as the sole breadwinner, I need to prioritize my health so I can support my family for years to come. The problem is, I'm so busy supporting them, there's not a lot of time left for push-ups. We'll see how it all turns out. Sphere of Fuzzy Feelings. Growing up, I wasn't one for chasing balls or shedding tears over a win or a loss, but my passions were equally absorbing. I wonder why this giant fuzzy sphere has been thinking of more youthful days, and what they were like for the inhabitants of this planet. Orbital Communication Sphere. Its hard outer shell could withstand severe environments, but the inside appears to be unexpectedly soft. The geological layers are breathtaking. If I had to guess, I'd say this is a scale model of a celestial body. I just can't explain why I want to hit it with a stick. Orb of Destruction. I can verify that there are indeed 108 stitches on this ball. I counted them myself. Oh, that's not right. Get back here. Where was I? Oh, right. Ugh. Yes, I counted them myself. The process took me all night to complete. As an explorer, it's important to question things in order to survive, but you should be careful not to overdo it. And now we reach the Gimme series. Louis is particularly fond of this as he likes to look for shiny things for his Nana. We have the Greed Inducement device. When you hear the sound this makes, the word paycheck immediately comes to mind. It's followed quickly by the image of my wife's face and her voice reciting our monthly household budget in full. Food, tuition, medical bills. The list goes on and on and... You get the idea. Disc of Joyous Wisdom. Whenever I hear a joyful song, I'm transported back to family celebrations with live music and dancing. I see my family, all dressed to the nines, looking at me with silly expressions on their faces. I hope to witness that again one day soon. Disc of Angry Wisdom. A few years ago, my wife suspected I had betrayed her in some way or another and was furious at me. She was so enraged she could have turned the whole world upside down. It was terrifying, yet comforting to know that I still ignited such passion within her. Disc of Sorrowful Wisdom. What is the purpose of emotions? They give our lives meaning and balance. One could not survive a life of pure sorrow, so we must find delight in things. A life of pleasure would become monotonous, so we should appreciate the bad as much as the good. Disc of Amusing Wisdom. I may not be the most graceful dancer, but who really cares? I like to let the music take over and allow my body to go with the flow. Sometimes my wife and I will be freestyling, and it looks like so much fun. The kids forget to be embarrassed and can't help but join in. Disc of Surprising Wisdom. My son is a known prankster and likes to catch my wife and me by surprise. One time, he leapt out from behind a garden gnome, and my wife jumped so high in surprise that she threw out her back. Since then, we've established a strict household no surprises policy. We now reach the Modern Amenities series, beginning with Secured Satchel. How many times have I heard my family complain about a jar that won't open, or a door that won't open, and there I am saying, just run it under hot water, or push, don't pull. However, I've tried both on this bag, and it literally cannot be opened. Floral Instigator. When a flower blooms on a dead tree, it is nothing short of a phenomenon. I've also witnessed flowers bloom on a Pikmin's head after they drink nectar. I suspect this stick shares the same rejuvenating property exhibited by other life forms on this planet. Fascinating item. This one time when I was a kid, my parents had a big fight and refused to speak to each other. I went back and forth, mediating until the argument was resolved. I'd like to say it was for the sake of their love, but I was just tired of waiting for dinner. Trap lid. I've found that this planet is riddled with underground caverns and passageways. I love to explore this place, but it feels like I'm in constant danger of falling into a hole. This lid must have been used to warn previous inhabitants of nearby pitfalls. Perforated raft. I'd equip the underside of this raft with floats, so that it hovers above the water's surface, making it possible to sail without sinking. Then I'd plug the holes with magnifying lenses, so I could peer underwater safely. Yes, very practical. Gift of friendship. The lovely patina on this piece is evidence of a deep bond between this dog and its companion. A dog never truly forgets their owner, and an owner will remember their dog for life. Eternal truths such as this transcend all times and galaxies. We have now arrived at the Memory Fragment series, all of which are categorized according to position. The vastness of space and the unknown it contains is an unsolvable puzzle. At the start of each voyage, I set out to unravel every mystery and discover great truths, but I always find myself returning with more questions than answers. At Hook Take Freight, we often divide up our cargo to use the ship's space more efficiently. Big companies have huge transporters to fill up, but that also means a lot less flexibility. They're still filling up their gigantic ships while we're out making deliveries. As a boy, I would spend days drawing elaborate treasure maps. The buried treasure may have been junk to most, but to me it was precious. Is this a fragment of a treasure map? I doubt it, but the subject of this drawing was probably a treasure to the artist. I understand the instinct to hide something precious to you, though the word protect is probably more apt. I feel similarly about my family. I do everything in my power to give them a safe, happy life. It's a simple desire, but it motivates me to carry on. This looks just like the kind of pictures you get when you let a kid play with their camera. Blurry and too close up to see anything. I deleted all those pictures my kids took to free up memory space, but now I wish I hadn't. Imperfect memories can be the most precious. This makes me think of my dog Bobby back at home. I'm away for work quite a bit, so we've got long periods without seeing each other. Yet every time I come home, he treats me as if I never left. He may be the wisest and most loving member of the family. This unknown organism bears a strong resemblance to the dogs on my planet. I'm amazed that such a similar species could exist in the far reaches of outer space. I've heard that organic components can travel through space on meteorites and comets. Could there be a connection between my planet and this one? As a young boy, I collected rocks and shiny objects that I held quite dear. My parents always wanted me to get rid of them, but I refused. I can't even remember where I found them all. I probably picked up most of them right in our own backyard. I'm still not sure why I was so attached to a bunch of gravel, but they shone like diamonds to me. As a child, there were many times I'd come across something unknown to me and intuitively investigate without hesitation. It worked out well for me, I believe. As an adult, I often overthink matters, so maybe I need to recapture that daring spirit of my youth. Why are things the way they are? The answer can be surprisingly simple. For example, my kids will often dismantle a clock or a chair, or tear up a piece of bread just because they can. Maybe there's no significant reason that this picture is in pieces either. That little bump at the end makes us look like it has a nose. Noses made me think of my son when he was a baby. He'd often forget my face after I'd been gone for long stints of work, and cry when I got home. But once he knew the distinctive shape of my nose, he recognized me right away. Did I dream of becoming a glorified delivery man? Or was adventure always my true goal, given my current circumstances? Who knows? I'm proud to say I've achieved both, but the president might see it differently. I'm worried about my annual bonus. And today, we'll be covering even more of this comprehensive database, beginning with the Extravagant Breakfast Series. Did I have breakfast today? We begin with Condensed Sunshine. This scent is dangerously sweet and brings to mind concentrated memories of my wife's adorable smile. But one can't subsist on sweetness alone. You also need solid qualities like trust and patience. Having those is like a big hearty breakfast for the soul. Flaky Temptation. This is an extremely dangerous food. Its light and airy appearance belies a rich and indulgent interior. Before you've finished one, you're already reaching for the next. Is it even possible to deny such temptation? And do I even want to? Cushion Cake. I nap in the pilot seat sometimes, but a cushion like this would be a great alternative. The only weird part is that it's edible. Does that mean something or someone could eat it right out from under you? That's a major drawback. Puzzle Snack. Its shape is mesmerizing. I only wish I could understand how it was sculpted. The more I think about it, the hungrier I get. Thankfully, the salty and sweet pillowy interior is as re-energizing as it is delicious. But then I start thinking again, and the cycle continues. We have now reached the Sacred Sphere series, beginning with the Sphere of Desire. There's nothing in the universe more interesting than the universe itself. A curious and inquisitive mind will never be satisfied, no matter how much you explore. I hope I feel this way as long as I can. It's important to stay interested in your work. Sphere of Family. It's often said that you don't realize how much your parents have done for you until it's too late to thank them. I try to show my gratitude and keep in touch as much as I can with video calls, but as soon as my kids pop on screen, my parents forget I'm there. Sphere of Heart. I know it's impossible to read minds, but I'm particularly clueless when it comes to relationships. When we first started dating, my wife was gracious enough to explain how she felt in great detail. I'm still awkward, but any social skills I do have are thanks to her. Sphere of Beginnings. I've never minded having to start over or pick up my life at the flip of a switch. My environment and those in my social circle, try saying that 5 times fast, might change. But as long as I have my family with me, I'll still be me. They always call me out when I'm acting totally weird. Sphere of Vitality. It's become painfully obvious to me that the mind and body are closely linked. Spending so much time away from my family is hard on my mental health, and it visibly takes a toll on my body. Even when I eat healthy and exercise, I really miss them. Sphere of Calm. It just occurred to me that I haven't had a checkup in... I'm embarrassed to say how long. You're supposed to do it once a year, but I keep putting it off. Lately, my elbow's been making an odd clicking sound every time I move it. I should get it checked out eventually. Sphere of Good Fortune. Getting lost in space is as good as a death sentence. The newest ships have technology that can locate the closest planet and initiate an emergency landing. Yet they still haven't built a navigation system that can detect and avoid incoming meteorites and space trash. Sphere of trust. It's easy to lose someone's trust, despite the fact that it takes so long to build it in the first place. But once you have that trust and support, it's much easier to achieve your goals. I'd rather be able to count on someone I trust than leave it all up to chance. Sphere of support. I'd never consider myself to be someone with a lot of inner strength or fortitude, but my wife seems to disagree. I must be playing it way too cool when we're together. Sphere of truth. This bowl is meant to represent truth, but the truth is never truly black or white. It's both subjective and objective, and extremely tricky. I think the color gray would make more sense for this object, or maybe that hideous brown you get when you mix all the paint colors together. And now we've arrived at the spring crop favorite. Oh, I mean series, but it is a favorite. Sunseed berry. The scent of this fruit tickles my heart for some reason. It makes me think back on summer memories, my wife smiling at me in the sunlight. She'd probably have a good laugh if she ever read this, but that wouldn't be so bad. I happen to love that sound. Cupid's grenade. What a perplexing plant. It appears to be carrying two different types of berries. They must be a rare species of fruit. Both have odd traits. One seems to be a suppressant, while the other is a stimulant. It's not easy to tell which is which. Searing Ashichock. In my youth, I used to power through long night shifts by sucking on sour fruit candy. It somehow energized me and kept me wide awake. I couldn't do that now, even with the candy, but it's an example of how sometimes things turning sour can work out for the best. Velvety Dream Drop. When my first child was born, my wife and I would sit outside in the warm spring weather and take turns rocking him in our arms. Those days were filled with endless joy. The sunlight bouncing off his downy hair looks just like this. Astringent Clump. The night after I ate this fruit, I had a dream in which I saw lots of them growing, clustered together on a tree. If I were able to grow and harvest that many, we'd never run out of food. I suppose we won't know what's possible until I plant the first seed. Wayward Moon. Picking the right get-well-soon gift is notoriously tricky. You're supposed to choose something you think the recipient would enjoy and ignore your own preferences. That's easier said than done. When I can't think of anything good, I usually default to some sort of food, like this fruit. I know I'm always hungry when I'm sick. And now we reach the Summer Fruit Series. Yes, we have reached the Summer Fruit Series, just checking there. Yes, the Lesser Mock Bottom. One whiff of this fruit will have your mouth watering, but the taste itself is sour and slightly disappointing. However, you can't let results like this keep you from trying new things. There's no greater quality than an adventurous spirit. Mock Bottom. Extremely sweet, almost too sweet. The flavor makes you feel drowsy with joy, and you want to soak in those joyful juices forever and ever. I may need to limit my intake when it comes to this fruit. Dawn Pustules. This fruit comes in bunches, so you can keep eating them and never run out. A single berry satisfies my appetite, but I'm grateful to live in a universe with such natural abundance. Dust pustules. I've noticed that the skin contains a substance with antioxidant properties. That's probably why I feel so fresh and invigorated after I eat one. I wonder how I'd feel after eating two. Crimson Banquet. I look at this fruit and am instantly overcome by the urge to split it into a million pieces. I close my eyes to avoid the thought, but the impulse just got stronger. I must be holding on to a deep desire to take on and defeat a giant spherical obstacle. Juicy Gaggle. Numerous pockets of juice clustered around a hollow interior. Much like memories, both sweet and sour, that burst with meaning, yet still cannot fill that empty place in one's heart. Gazing upon this fruit always fills me with regret. Autumn Harvest Series, starting with the Zest Bomb. Seems to be a citrus lamp, but younger and very green. Inexperience is usually perceived as a weakness, but its power should not be underestimated. Many an organization has been improved by newcomers' creative and untamed energy. Delectable Bouquet. While observing the plant bear fruit, I was unable to work out where and when the flowers bloomed. I was so frustrated that I couldn't figure out basic botany, but all those annoying feelings faded away as soon as I bit into the fruit's sweet flesh. Potable Sunset. This fruit reminds me of a particular sunset I witnessed years ago. My son and I were walking home together one evening, and the sun was setting right across our path. I remember it like it was yesterday. It wasn't spectacular in the least, but I'll never forget it. Tremendous Sniffer. There's an elegance about this fruit. Its graceful curves and subtle flavor bring to mind images of ornate ballrooms, overflowing with cultured guests and blossoming flowers. The simple act of eating it makes me feel a little fancier. Crunchy Deluge. This fruit has a high water content, and its skin is so thin that you can bite right through it. It'd be the most perfect snack to keep in your pack on a long hike through the desert, if only it didn't bruise so easily. Disguised Delicacy. The fruit on this planet is astonishingly large. If we could cultivate these ample fruits on Hocotate, nobody would ever go hungry again. Sadly, I don't know anything about agriculture. Maybe I should have listened to my wife when she told me to do yard work. Blonde Imposter. My wife went through a phase where all she talked about was Pikmin and its nutritious value. She charted Pikmin U percentages, and then there was A and P. I never really understood what she was talking about, but she was so passionate about it, I couldn't help but listen. I bet she'd really like to try this fruit. And now we reach the Winter Reserve series. When I look at the company president, I can't see myself climbing the corporate ladder. To be a manager, it seems you've also got to be an inhuman, heartless villain. These traits allow them to squeeze their dedicated workers without mercy and still sleep at night. I feel that same merciless cruelty radiating from this metallic altar. I wonder if it was once used for dark, unspeakable ceremonies. Or perhaps it was once the desk of a corporate boss. We'll never know. Citrus Lump. This fruit is so shiny and round, it reminds me of a beach ball whenever I see it. Yet it's so yummy that I can't help but get cravings for it and end up eating it all the time. The only drawback is that I'm constantly disappointed that I'm not on vacation. Face Wrinkler. The love between my wife and I has been captured in all sorts of romantic memories, as sweet and sour as this fruit. It's fun to return to those memories and feel what I felt then. Sometimes I wonder how my kids will feel the first time they fall in love. Pucked airhead. Some people may like to peel this fruit from the top, but I prefer to attack it from the bottom instead. Whenever I go from the top, I get this tingly feeling around my belly button. I find it very unnerving. Insect condo. This fruit could be hiding more than a tasty interior. On more than a few occasions, I found bugs munching their way through the sweet flesh, presumably enjoying a snack of their own. How funny to think that I share the same taste in fruit as a worm. And we have now reached the tropical picking series. Still not on vacation. Dapper blob. Don't ask me how I know, but if you draw a face on this fruit, it bears an uncanny resemblance to my wife wearing a hat. It even emits the same stylish and judgmental aura. Funny how the doodled version of her is as intimidating as the real thing. Scaly custard. The hard, scaly shell that covers its fruit gets softer and darker as it ripens, so determining the optimal time to peel and eat it can be difficult. It's as if the fruit is actively trying to sabotage your enjoyment of it. I've never known produce to be so sneaky. Seed hive. I always thought it was better to eat fruit when it's ripe, but this one is just as enjoyable and nutritious when it's green. The same can be said about creatures like us. Many think maturity is superior, but inexperience and youth are what provide fresh perspectives. Stellar extrusion. To look at a cross-section of this fruit, you'd think it was a drawing of a star, like one my son would make. Stars don't actually look like that, so why do we draw them this way? Maybe the secret to the universe is hidden within those 5 points. Heroine's tear. Peeling this fruit is arduous due to its soft skin. When I tried to eat it without first removing the peel, a rash developed around my mouth. I had better success when I slit grid-like cuts into the skin and flipped it inside out. The results were delicious. Slapstick croissant. I must confess, I once slipped and fell in a peel that I thoughtlessly discarded onto the floor after eating the fruit inside. I'm really too old to be making mistakes like that. I can even hear my own voice scolding myself. Don't forget to clean up your trash. Fire-breathing feast. Throughout my life, I've met people who seem flashy or fancy, but were actually quite down to earth. I've also met people who are as arrogant as they looked. The same lessons should be applied to this fruit. Looks pretty intimidating, but what's on the inside? We begin where we left off previously with the Bedtime Series. I wish it was bedtime. Dusty bed. If it's a good night's sleep you're seeking, this bed can help. That's not my entry. Alright, dusty bed. I've heard this mattress possesses miraculous relaxation properties that promise the most restless sleeper a good night of sleep. I was curious to know how this would affect me, who can literally sleep anywhere. I need a nap. Would I ever wake up again? Thankfully, I did. Doggy bed. My beloved dog Bobby has the impressive ability to fall asleep anywhere he wants. We have that in common. This habit is also one of my wife's biggest pet peeves. Perhaps if Bobby had a designated bed, it would create a bit more harmony at home. Birdie bed. Research has shown that sound waves created by a chirping bird are naturally comforting and induce sleep. Now, I don't have any strong preferences when it comes to bedding, but if this makes me feel like I'm sleeping on the forest floor, It could be worth a try. Fishy bed. This thing reminds me of this one time I was fixing the hull of the SS Dolphin. The combination of the sun and zero gravity created an illusion. It was as if I was a fish floating in the open sea. But in fact, it was just me, floating in a sea of space debris. And now we are at... Let's see, what series is this? Yes, 3 generations, beginning with Granddaughter Doll Head. I look forward to one day looking upon the face of my grandchild. If it's as cute as this one, I couldn't help but dote on them. But it doesn't really matter what they look like, or if they resemble me or someone else in my family. I've always thought that grandchildren are meant to be spoiled. Gifting vase. I used to know a guy who would never give in to his kids when they begged him for something, yet one look from his grandkids, and he'd give them anything they wanted. It seems that a grandchild possesses immense powers of persuasion. Or it's just magic. Daughter Doll Head. Children often exhibit both the positive and negative qualities of their parents. I think that's why we feel for them so much. What's more, we want them to keep improving and even exceed the expectations we set for ourselves. It's hard work being a kid. Mooching vase. I've worked hard, so I wouldn't be a financial burden on my parents. And I don't want my kids to be dependent on me when they grow up. A parent's job is to raise independent children, but not too independent. You still want them to come home for the holidays. Mama Dollhead. As a parent, you need to be able to hide some emotion from your children. It's harder than you think. I remember telling my parents about my career goals and seeing the disappointment in their eyes. It hurt, but I'm glad it didn't pull me off my path. Empty vase. Once you have children, money starts disappearing faster than you can save it. My wife always says, if it's for the children, it's worth it. I admire her enormous heart. Still, every year it seems like the children get more and more expensive. Ah yes, the Gourmet Series. I think this might be a particular favorite of my comrade Louis. King of Meats. I never expected to find such an appetizing cut of meat in a dark underground lair. Why was it there? How was it made? And is there a reason for its large size? I imagine it was an offering to some great figure. I shall pay my respects later as well. Maestro of Flavor. I'm not sure why you'd want to eat raw fish. Maybe cookery on this planet advanced so far, they were able to recreate the essence of the original ingredients. It'd be easier to eat if I could cut it down into smaller pieces, but that might be insulting to the chef. Belted Delicacy. I understand the white granular parts on the bottom to be fish eggs. One time when I went fishing with my son, we caught a fish who is carrying eggs like these. It was a revelatory moment for him to see how life can differ from species to species. Fish bed snack. One of my favorite birthday gifts as a child was a book I received called 20,000 Millimeters Under the Sea. I believe I owe my adventurous spirit to that novel. How funny that a piece of seafood from a different planet could remind me of my childhood self. The Four Grill Brothers. I can tell that it gives me tons of power and stamina. I'm not athletic, but if I ate this whole thing, I'm sure I could work for 3 days straight without a wink of sleep. Now that I think about it, I don't want the president to hear about this and get any ideas. We've now reached the Soulful Musician series. Beginning with the harmonic synthesizer. My taste in music is highly refined, but my wife and kids have no taste at all. For example, When I ask my family if they want to go out for karaoke, they twist their faces and give me a nasty look. They don't know what they're missing. Spouse alert. Sometimes I miss my carefree bachelor days. Once you have a family, those days are history. I like spending time with my wife, but sometimes I just want to be alone. Path Creator. When I was a kid, I set off the alarm system at my primary school just to see what would happen. As predicted, I was scolded, but I have no regrets. We are naturally curious creatures. Why else would we be here? I still get the urge to set off alarms, but sadly, I've gotten better at resisting those impulses. Time Marker. Despite its solemn appearance, the sound emitted by this object is airy and bright. It reminds me of the innocence and wonder that lives in the hearts of a young child. It's important enough to lose that sense of childlike wonder. I know I haven't. Wind Detector. Unpainted spaceships look a lot like this, shiny and ripe for adventure. As a kid, I would go down to the spaceship dock just to watch the ships being assembled. That's where I started to dream big. In reality, this is likely some kind of noise maker. Ambiguous Hostel. Based on its shape and where it was found, I have deduced this is a nest for some type of aquatic creature. On Hocotate, fish are known to use sunken buildings and objects like their own underwater apartments. I'm sure many a life flourished here. Megahorn. I'm not sure my eardrums will ever recover from the thunderous noise emitted by this artifact. I can only imagine it played a role in many a naughty child's practical jokes. If I had one of these as a kid, I'm sure I would have been a terror. Mechanical Harp. Playing the memory song. Strange. Despite its calming tones, something about this melody makes my palms sweat and sends shivers up my spine. It's as if it's sending me a warning about unexpected troubles in the future. The Mechanical Harp with the lullaby tune. There's a healing quality to this song, and I can't help but gravitate toward it. Perhaps this is a machine meant to lure prey for a stronger predator. The strong do have a disproportionate advantage on this planet. Wait, then does that make me the weaker prey? The Mechanical Harp with the Windmills tune. My son is always playing some sort of adventure game. He becomes the hero, defeats his arch nemesis, and saves the day at last. I admire heroic figures like that, but if given a choice, I'd choose my own life again and again. Emperor Whistle. When I blow air into this rock, it makes the hair on my neck stick straight up. But if I blow a little bit harder, the sound becomes crackly and soft. It's so pathetic, I can't help but burst into a fit of giggles whenever I hear it. Shake a Smile. This object rattles when you move it. It sounds quite similar to the frequency emitted by baby goods on my home planet. I imagine this would work in a pinch if you had a crying baby you needed to soothe. Amplified Amplifier. I wasn't surprised to discover this had been found inside a groovy long lake deep underground. It certainly gives off the same vibes as a creature made of inorganic and organic materials. On a separate note, every time I look at it, I want to dance. We now have arrived at the Great Adventure Series. Double Dragon-Eyed Scope. It's reminiscent of a telescope I had when I was a kid. My father and I would stare up at the skies together and talk about our discoveries. That telescope nurtured my adventurous spirit. I'd love to meet the adventurer who peeked into these lenses. Temporal Mechanism. I was entranced by the longer needle as it spun round and round, and I completely lost track of time. This object doesn't strike me as otherworldly, but whenever I look at it, it's like I can feel the space-time continuum bending around me. Director of Destiny. The arrow-like object floating in the center appears to move around at will, but it's actually always pointing in the same direction. It could be trying to point me toward my destiny, but I'd rather figure that out on my own. Detective's Truth Seeker. Everything looks so much bigger when you peer through this lens. You can see the smallest of details, and all the different components that make up a single object. That's the proper way to conduct a scientific investigation. Unlimited. Oh yes, we've reached a new series, the Roundabout Express. These are some very fun ones. The Unlimited Locomotive. Why is it that a child's eyes always seem to light up at the sight of a train? My son was fascinated with them, and it was the first toy he ever wanted. I was the same way as a kid. Even now, I'm wishing I can hop on this train and go for a ride. Choo-choo! Middle Management Tank Car. Long ago, railroads were the lifeblood of civilization, and the power to transport people or supplies remains key to our survival. Someone's got to move the fuel, right? I like to think our company plays a similar role in space. It gives meaning to the daily grind. Leisure car. As a student, I once took a local train, a really slow one, on a journey to wherever it was going. I was the only passenger. The unchanging scenery stretched on and on. I felt like I was the only person in the world. Sounds a lot like space travel. Huh? Life station. During my first job, my parents would meet me at the train station when I got home from work. I always thought I'd do the same thing for my kids, but it's usually them waiting at the station for me now. It always warms my heart, but I wish I could return the favor. Straight and narrow track. They say that following the straight and narrow path is a virtue, but I've learned firsthand that it doesn't always lead you to your destination. When I started working directly under the president of Hookatake Freight, I thought it was the inevitable next step in my career. All it led to was piles and piles of paperwork. I'll be happy if my kids take a slightly twisted route in life, as long as it helps them achieve their dreams. Turn of events track. I always slow down on sharp curves, but sometimes I crave the occasional thrill of speed. Maybe if I floored the accelerator while the parking brake was engaged, it would satisfy my desire. Sometimes I look around and wonder if civilization isn't simply the result of us all trying to satisfy our desires just enough to stay productive. Back at the beginning track. I took my son to the zoo a few years ago, and he suddenly started crying. To calm him, I walked him back and forth on a path with no exhibits. We didn't see any animals that day, but I learned that sometimes the best solution is as simple as a change in direction. Thrill ride track. Some people think I don't like the concept of a set path or staying on the rails. That's not true at all. The only thing that matters to me is that I'm going in the right direction. How I get to my destination is irrelevant, much like the opinions of others. I do wish to record one more series in this session, but my vocal cords are needing a brief rest. Ah yes, that 30-second break was positively invigorating. Let's move on with the Oral Argument series, beginning with Mouth of Lies. So, the idea is you put your hand in the mouth and pretend it's being devoured by whatever's inside this object? Maybe some people find that funny, or even romantic, but it seems like a mediocre party gag to me. Monster teeth. I do not want to cross paths with the owner of these teeth. Of course, given the height of those molars, I'm guessing they're too big to have much in the way of physical agility. And that could work to my advantage if we did encounter one another. I could just run in frantic circles until they eventually gave up. Brush of Wisdom. I'm reminded of a toothbrush I used when I was a kid. I always wanted to brush my own teeth, so when my mom finally gave up helping me, it was a sweet victory. Unfortunately, that's when I started to get cavities. I guess that's the price of independence. Brush of Foolishness. Brushing a child's teeth for them is hard work, made worse by the fact that they're oblivious to the perils of tooth decay. I stopped brushing our kids' teeth for a time so they could learn for themselves, but that idea did not go over too well with my wife. False Lollipop. I look at this and am instantly overcome by thoughts of my mother and all the mothers out there. They represent the power of nature itself, cocooning the universe in love and fortifying it with their strength since the dawn of time. Maternal Sculpture. This shape resembles a mammalian appendage, but I have no idea what it actually does. It's dripping with what can only be described as beast drool. I'm hesitant to touch it, but I've got a duty to my mission, and maybe it won't be so bad if I close my eyes. Bathing Pool. The bathtub we have at home is much smaller. If we had one like this, we could use it as a hot tub and relax together as a family. Then again, it's hard to unwind when surrounded by excited children, especially ones who like to splash you in the face. We begin again where we left off previously with the Assembled Courage series. In my line of work, you often do need to assemble your courage. Think Tank Combo Bot. I was in awe of modular robots when I was growing up. Their strength and abilities impressed me to my core. I doubt anyone's ever admired me in such a way, but maybe that's not so bad. I find great satisfaction in being respected as an equal. Nexus Combo Bot. Once it gets started on something, I'm the type that can't help but keep piling on more and more for myself to do. If that's considered hard work, then I guess I like hard work. The only problem is the result of hard work isn't always good work. Fist Force Combo Bot. It's crucial to believe that you are capable of success. But just because you believe it doesn't guarantee it will happen. Then again, if you don't believe it, you're unlikely to succeed at all. That's why you have to clench your fists and remain strong in the face of every challenge. For me, the ultimate success will be returning home to my family. I believe I can. Peacemaker Combo Bot. For me, love and protectiveness go hand in hand. When I think of my daughter, rambunctious, willful, a bright spark of joy, both feelings come forth at once. I'd do anything to keep her spark from fading, the way mine has. If she read this now, she'd say, "Lighten up, Dad." Kickstart Combo Bot. Legs are some of the most important parts of a living organism. Not only are they used for walking and running, but that movement helps circulate blood throughout the body. Some even call legs the second heart. I wonder if my toes serve a second purpose as well. Sure-footed Combo Bot. Many people don't realize that they not only have a dominant hand, but a dominant leg as well. That leg can be even more muscular or longer than its non-dominant counterpart. Too big of an imbalance between the legs can have staggering effects. And now we begin the Soulful Artist series. Uniquely You Goo. This is my favorite color. I love how it imbues passion and emotion into everything it touches. Come to think of it, the first Pikmin I encountered were red. Perhaps that's why I instinctively trusted them. Colors can influence behavior in all kinds of ways. Decorative goo. This color is very similar to that of the blue Pikmin. I prefer red. Illumination goo. I heard that Pikmin of the same color were found in the same location. Could there be a correlation? Some creatures change their appearance to match their environment. I'd like to observe what happens to those Pikmin when exposed to other environments. Noble goo. Found in a dark location. Luckily, it was just bright enough to be spotted in the vicinity of purple Pikmin. I've never associated purple with strength, but I've since had to revise my thinking. True goo. Discovered in an obscure locale alongside white Pikmin. Creatures with bright colors are usually more likely to be packing poison, while creatures with dull coloration are generally harmless. But this doesn't apply to white Pikmin. In fact, they're dangerously poisonous. No doubt they use this to their advantage. Ambiguous goo. This color reminds me of rock Pikmin. When I first touched one, I was surprised by how cold it felt. It was a pleasant sensation, and they didn't seem to mind my curiosity. Much like this treasure, rock Pikmin were found in a dark, chilly place. How appropriate. Captivation goo. An attractive color, similar to that of the winged Pikmin that were found in its vicinity. It mystifies me how such helpless creatures have survived for so long. Their bright color makes it so easy for a predator to spot them. Needless to say, I find them to be particularly fascinating. Refreshing goo. This color reminds me of the ice emitted by the Sus Nivis Ventus. Is it a coincidence that I encountered this treasure and ice Pikmin in the same area? It's no coincidence that ice Pikmin are called that. If I licked one, I'm sure my tongue would stick to it. Neon goo. The same color as the glow Pikmin that appear while exploring at night. Many think neon colors are artificial, but they're actually the result of certain materials reacting to short wavelengths of light. So really they are quite natural, and another example of how our perception can be unreliable. And now we've arrived at the Ancient Secret series. There's some interesting little tidbits here. Lamp of Inspiration. This statue seems to be imbued with the majesty of an ancient goddess. When I look up at her, I can't help but be mesmerized by her beauty, until my neck starts throbbing in pain. Beckoning Mannequin. While looking at this statue, I found myself smiling and petting its head for no discernible reason. It must possess a magical ability to captivate people and convince them to do its bidding. How can something so devious and manipulative be so cute? Ancient Statue Head. This looks a lot like a figurine my son learned about in school. I've always wondered why she wears goggles. What does she have to hide? Maybe a secret past with another ancient statue floating out there. I look forward to discussing this theory with my son. Contemplation Station. Could I be related to the person who modeled for this statue? While examining it earlier, I found myself striking the same pose without even realizing it. If we do share the same genes, how do they end up on this side of space? Unfinished statue. What manner of calamities had befallen the planet at the time this statue was created? Apocalyptic catastrophes? Extreme weather? The wrath of the gods? The questions that artifacts like this inspire are what make them truly valuable. Ah yes, persistent machine. I've never been the type to give up. No matter how many times I fall, I'll always get back up again. At first, I thought I could practice alongside this machine, but its stubby body reminds me too much of the president. One glance at it, and I lose all motivation to continue. Giant's Fossil. Looking upon this warrior's calming visage is a peaceful way to spend an hour. The eyes seem to see through everything, as if their gaze is freeing you from the darkness of your mind. Perhaps I've stumbled upon the secret key to life's greatest questions. Expression Hider. I can't pinpoint the exact moment, but this reminds me of the face my wife once made when I delivered a perfectly executed dad joke. Buddy Display. What mysterious and fluffy creatures. I can't find evidence of them in any of the existing creature databases. But there's something familiar about them. It's almost as if I'd met them before. I guess I'll chalk it up to an ancient memory that's been imprinted on my genome. And now we've arrived at the gifts from the Sages series. Heat sensor. Quantifying the warmth in your heart. What a brilliant idea! The next time there's a mix-up between my wife and me, I can just show her the numerical value of my feelings for her. Then we can use it on her and... Actually, that part might backfire. Internal clock measurer. Tasks in space require accurate timing. Docking a spaceship is a good example of that. If the monitors on my ship were to break, I'd need to measure time using my instincts alone. This is a perfect tool to help me develop an accurate sense of time. Solar-powered computing machine. Hold on, I think I'm getting a call. Alright, I can't really remember where I was, so I'll just start this over here. We have the solar-powered computing machine. I may be able to embed this on the wall of the ship's computer room. It could be useful for making manual calculations, so the ship's AI ever crash unexpectedly. Space pilots need to be prepared for any emergency, and I'll take all the help I can get. Number Jumper. This is an extremely sturdy calculator. I never thought sturdiness was a necessary quality for a calculator, but I do recall my wife recalculating our monthly budgets multiple times after shopping trips with extreme vigor. And the calculators I've used for both life and work do have a tendency to get thrown around. I guess the craftsmen on this planet had the right idea. Oh yes, a most fascinated series, Paleontology. Octoplus, a strange life form that mimics an octopus. We've discovered other creatures that use mimicry, but in this case, it's fairly unconvincing. I'm not even sure if it is a life form. I intend to dissect it to investigate further, but first, I will try one tiny bite. Mystery Squish Fish. It's disturbing to see a mouth that can be removed like a cap. If it were reattached improperly, would the bodily fluids simply pour right out? I remember when a supposedly airtight container of mine once failed, my bag smelled like onion soup for a week. Nutellite Shell. A fossil excavated at the beach. From its shape, I can deduce that it was cast by an aquatic creature. That could indicate that the current site of the beach was once the ocean floor. Slipperbug Fossil. Discovered along a mountain stream, its shape reminds me of a type of footwear used when moving through shallow waters. Perhaps this creature mimicked the shoe prints of this planet's inhabitants as a way to hide in plain sight and steal their food. Relentless Sphere. This sphere looks like a rocket from the early days of space exploration. It may even conceal some kind... Oh, my goodness, I didn't even see. Yes, we have arrived at the new series, The Point of Honor. Yes, it may even conceal some kind of high propulsive force within. But I hope it has a more romantic history, and that it protected explorers as they sailed through space, pursuing their dreams. Noble Bident. Ah, my little girl has always been the princess of our household. If there was a miniature version of this, I'd love to present it to her as her own personal fork. I can imagine it now. She'd be so ecstatic, swinging it all around, wreaking havoc, scaring the dog. Never mind. I think our little princess is a tad too spirited for a gift like this. Shattering Lance. Careful, this tool is very sharp. Its original owner must have wanted to pierce or crack things open at any cost. As a lover and preserver of unique objects, I'm not quite sure I understand the purpose or value of an item such as this. Newly nostalgic series. I don't know why, but it does trigger those feelings within me. Micromanagement Station. During slow days at work, I like to play this game where I use the zero gravity to float toy rockets in front of the ship's window. Then I act out scenes from my favorite childhood TV show and pretend there's a galactic war going on in the distance. I should probably edit these notes before the president has to review them. Glinty circular disc. I think this might be a tool for warding off predators. Perhaps if I attached it to my back, the creatures of this planet would be deterred from chasing me. I could test this theory on the Pikmin. Of course, they might end up carrying me instead, treasure and all. Life controller. I like pressing the different directions of the mathematical symbol, but there's something captivating about the two round buttons. I can't help but want to push them over and over as fast as I can. I don't want to break them, but I don't want to stop either. Spinning Memories Plank. How interesting that the artist used a blank plank as a canvas and how they chose to depict the pilot. They look like the type that works hard for their beloved family. Though the design of the spaceship is all wrong. Good luck flying that thing through narrow meteor crevices. My goodness. Masterpiece Plank. It's a bit unusual to call something a masterpiece before you read it, but I've got a good feeling about this one. I think it's meant for children, but is it about a boy or a girl? Hopefully both. It's been hard to please everyone in the audience at bedtime lately. Telekinesis Detector. This machine is equipped with an advanced vibration feature. The vibrations seem to be communicating in a vacuum, perhaps trying to reach out to its corresponding system, which has likely been lost to time. Who knows what the machine is trying to say, but it's telling me something about the sadness of abandoned technology. Connection Detector. Sharing is one of civilization's most important virtues. We share food, shelter, stories, and sometimes even checks. I can only hope this belief is also held by the president of our company. I'd like him to share in the form of a holiday bonus this year. Creativity Conduit. I don't have a creative cell in my body, but my daughter somehow avoided this genetic deficiency. When she's drawing, she becomes so absorbed by her art, it's as if she can't hear a word I say. That, or she's just ignoring me. I have no idea what she draws is any good, but the ability to focus on something so deeply is talent enough. Either way, her future is bright. Stone of Advancement. Space is a funny place. You can be using the latest in galaxy navigation technology and still find yourself lost in a sea of space trash. But that's life, isn't it? If you want to advance, you've got to be flexible. This also applies to settling marital disagreements. Winged Freedom Sculpture. I sort of see the winged aspect, but mostly this reminds me of a model spaceship I played with as a kid. The overall design is perfect for transcending all kinds of atmospheric barriers. Plus, it looks so cool. We begin with the Ultra Hyper Technology series, beginning with Dimension Converter. What your eyes might see is not an exact representation of reality. We can only see one part of the world within a narrow range of visible light. This magnificent device proves that theory. I'd love to show it to my kids one day. It would boggle their minds. Soul Reverberator. I'm picky when it comes to music, but I'm fascinated by how a melody can perfectly capture a person's soul, or even a specific feeling. I wonder what my song would be. I'd like to think it would sound bold and romantic, and reflect my adventurous career. Maybe I should just write it myself. Personal Injury Blank. The ability to stay balanced is critical to exploration and space travel. It is okay to lose your balance, as long as you can regain it right away. This tool is perfect for strengthening that skill. The only problem is that I can't get it to move forward when I'm on my back. Don't see its specs. These shutters make it difficult to see clearly ahead, so I'm not sure why they'd be found in a dark cave. And it's not as if they even could be used as a proper hiding place. They remind me of playing hide and seek with my kids, and pretending not to see them. Ah, the Nature's Candy series. These are some of my favorites. Love Nugget. This tasty red snack isn't quite a fruit, but it doesn't seem like a vegetable either. I've analyzed it extensively, and whenever I think I've settled the matter, I discover something new that calls it all into question. This is why I'm not a scientist by trade. Crush Nugget. When I was a student, a girl in my class asked me to go shopping with her. It would have been rude to refuse, so I went. My friends kept hassling me, saying it was a date. It was so embarrassing, but come to think of it, my wife asked me out soon after that. I wonder if she was jealous. Anxious Sprout. This plant grows so fast, it reminds me of my own children. One day, they're little babies in my arms. The next day, they sprouted up into fully fledged people. I have my wife to thank for that. She does so much while I'm so frequently away for work. Crew Cut Gourd. I once saw a prototype of a spaceship shaped a lot like this. Unfortunately, it didn't fly straight. It just spun around in place. Examples like that are why I prefer a more traditional approach. Being original for the sake of originality is usually a waste of time. Child of the Earth. During my explorations, I found vegetables like this. I've never seen anything like them. This dark-dwelling vegetable stores all its nutritious energy in its roots. I think the name that it's been given, Child of the Earth, is very fitting. Daughter of the Earth. When my son was born, I was almost immediately worried about him, but it was different with my daughter. I sensed from the start that she was strong-willed and sturdy. A sweeter version of her mother. This Daughter of the Earth reminds me of her. Mysterious Carriage. Large. And the size is right for retrofitting into some sort of vehicle. Maybe a carriage? But then what do you do with all the goopy insides? Flippantly throw them out the window as you roll away in your fancy new transport? Never! I am vehemently opposed to wasting food. Snack Bean. I don't need any special tools to break open the shell, and the fruit inside is edible. Cracking these open is so satisfying that I find myself getting carried away and opening more than I could possibly eat. Note to self, work on moderation. Foolish Fruit. The shape of this fruit looks a lot like my grandpa's face. It's so similar that if I were to name it, I'd call it a Crampy Face Fruit. My wife always thought my taste in names was catastrophically bad, which is why she named both our children. But I think this one has a certain ring to it. And now we've arrived at the Sword and Shield series. The last shield. The first time I rode in a spaceship, I was a student working part-time for an interspace transportation company. The excitement I felt during that first launch was unforgettable. The iconic rocket engraved on the shield reminds me of that moment. Ring of Return shield. When I was little, I'd look at pictures of the planets and imagine that the rings around them were roads you could travel on. Of course, once I got to space, I learned that those rings are usually made up of dust particles. I've never been so disappointed. Satellite shield. Someone told me that when a satellite is decommissioned, some of its lights will start to blink spontaneously as it falls through the atmosphere. It's likely a glitch, but I'd like to believe the satellite's sending one last message before burning up into nothingness. Heroic shield. The figure on the shield is wearing something quite similar to our spacesuits. That would mean these living beings must have looked something like us. I wonder who they were and what their faces looked like. Could they have been our ancestors who migrated through space to our planet long ago? Shooting star shield. I often encounter comets and meteors on the job, and collisions are bound to happen. I once had to make a crash landing for that very reason. I like to look back at these events as unexpected adventures, but at the time, they're pretty harrowing. Yes, harrowing indeed. Heart sword. Even though it's awkward to handle, I assume it's a weapon of some kind. I like how lightweight and user-friendly it is, but I'm not sure how effective it would be against most threats. Either way, it's a lot of fun to play with. Spirit sword. It must have been pretty hard to see the sword in the forest, as it would blend in with the foliage. Applying an apathetic coloration to a weapon is more than just practical, it's brilliant. I'm always amazed at the creative solutions that float around in the minds of others. Ice sword. I visited a few icebound planets while delivering cargo throughout space. Based on my experience, I find it hard to believe this material could withstand such a severe environment. I think it's likely this object was used for another purpose. Heroic sword. My son used to have a toy sword in a similar color. He was obsessed with it and brought that sword everywhere he went, including the dinner table. That is, until I explained that it was dishonorable for a hero to attack a weaker citizen wielding only a fork. Bright sword. With all these different colored swords, I assumed that the armies on this planet color-coded their troops. An entire unit with matching weapons and uniforms would have been a sight to behold. I'm sure this color especially stood out. And now the toys of Giant Series. I can't imagine the size of the beings that played with these. Unfloatable boat. They say it's possible to float this unfloatable boat with the help of divine intervention. That sounds a lot like luck to me. I've had my fair share of bad luck, but at least I've been fortunate enough to survive. Anyhow, my chances don't look good. Fox Fishy. I'm much more used to seeing fish painted in a profile instead of from the top down. I suspect this is supposed to float on the water, but I'd be quite startled to encounter a fish like this under normal circumstances. Space Spinner. The movement of the universe always seems slow to me, but it's a matter of perspective. Maybe the movement of this object is how a higher power perceives it. We are all so small in the grand scheme. I get dizzy thinking about the epic scale of space. Or is it just a space spinner? Sweat-soaked blue bird. Attaching an intangible wish to a tangible object seems to be a universal habit. I wish for my family's happiness, but haven't quite found the right talisman to attach to it. My family must be wishing for my safe return. I hope they have better luck. Skin of the Phoenix. This bird reminds me of a mythical creature famous for granting immortality to those brave enough to seek it out. I have no interest in living forever. Or maybe the idea of risking my life for the sole purpose of evading death just sounds a bit wonky to me. Why not enjoy the time you have while you have it? Anyway, this is a nice shade of red. Priceless bird. To have a charm that's solely devoted to financial luck comes off as vulgar and gives me an icky feeling. On the other hand, money is a necessity, and that's an inescapable fact. Well, there is one escape. More money. Wouldn't that be nice? To have a bit more. Aspiration Ritual Ball. I am deeply moved when I imagine ancient peoples entrusting the small, smooth ball with their hopes and dreams, then passing it down through the ages. It'd be a comfort to know that my dreams won't die with me, but will somehow transcend time. Aspiration Ritual Pole. I am so bemused by the idea of catching a dream, but it's difficult to achieve in practice. I still haven't been able to catch the ball with a spike upright. Perhaps I need to try an easier angle. But would that diminish the challenge, and thus the quality of the dream? Divine Balloon. Don't worry too much if it deflates. Simply pump more air into the top pole, and the original shape is restored. The material, though paper thin, seems to repel water. Such an inspiring creation. Only the most advanced civilization could conceive of such a work of art. It's like a metaphor for both the fragility and durability of life itself. And now we've reached the Collection Obsession Series. Deity's Portrait. I once had a trump card, a premium license given only to first-rate space navigation officers that allows you to bypass the arduous license renewal process. But I'm sure I lost that qualification with this recent accident. Guess it's back to annual visits to the license renewal planet on the edge of space. The lines are always so long. Devil's Portrait. Does true evil really exist? I can't say for sure, but I've seen a smile like this before. It often graces the face of the president of Hokatate Freight, usually when he's asking me to work overtime. Unpaid. So I guess I can confirm that true evil exists. Courage Emblem. Some might look at this and see a symbol for life, but this treasure better represents courage. The two are closely related, of course. Power and wisdom also have roles to play, but without the courage to take that first step, your journey cannot begin. Power Emblem. There's physical power, and then there's mental power. Anyone who's witnessed an argument between me and my wife could clearly see who's quicker on the feet in the heat of the moment. That doesn't bother me so much. I just wish I had the same fortitude and would to stand up to the president. Wisdom Emblem. Possessing wisdom isn't always a good thing. Sure, you can examine a subject from multiple angles, but you can also get stuck in a maze of thoughts. Am I envious of people who can just act on instinct without overthinking every last detail? Let's see. I don't. Maybe. Love Emblem. If my travels through space and my time spent observing various life forms have taught me anything, it's that love can take many forms. Some creatures get the nutrition they need to grow their eggs by eating their mates. But that's an extreme example. Money Emblem. The love I feel for my family and the passion I have for my work are so very important to me, but so is money. Love and passion are all well and good, but you can't appreciate any of it if you go hungry. And you'll go hungry in this universe without money. Work Emblem. In my line of work, it's crucial to stay on top of your to-do list. When things are busy, it's easy to get sloppy and let things slide. But that's when consistency matters most. There's nothing like that rush of joyful relief you feel when crossing off a task. Ooh, shiny. Gold Nugget. Appears to have the same composition as the gold on my planet. I've heard that some heavy elements, like gold, are created during rare collisions between neutron stars. But to think the same element exists on a faraway planet reminds me, space is so vast. I do apologize. I had to step away from recording for a time, but it looks like we've actually arrived at the final series. Let's finish out strong. The final series is Hands of Fate. Beginning with Long Shot Totem. I've lived through some harrowing events, and the trick to surviving in space is to prepare for every possible situation. But this is technically and literally impossible. Sometimes you just need to roll the dice, hope for the best, and let the universe do its thing. Go with the flow, Totem. Having to choose 1 out of 20 possible scenarios during a voyage through space would be an object lesson in randomness, and very unfortunate. On the minuscule chance it should ever occur, the only solution would be to throw up your hands and laugh. Chance Totem. When I gaze at this stone, I can feel my fate being forecasted. It must know what's going to happen to me. I'm sure it sees that I'll be hailed as a brilliant visionary and brave explorer when I return to Hokotate. Difficult choice, Totem. While exploring, I'm often faced with a difficult question. Which way do I go? North, south, east, or west? A tool like this could be useful in those moments. Of course, one roll would be too random. It'd be best to roll it 100 times and take the average result. Talisman of Life. Crane. I hope to one day celebrate a high-numbered birthday, but I don't think there will be any large birds in attendance at the party. Just think of how much trouble they could cause. If space has taught me anything, it's to plan for the worst-case scenario. Cherry Blossom. Springtime always reminds me of the day I moved out of my parents' house. At first, everything was fresh and exciting, but I quickly realized that life on my own was a lot harder than I expected. I also realized I should thank my parents for all they'd done for me. And now the moon talisman of life. When my son was little, he thought the moon was just a powdered donut in the sky. He would cry and cry, "I want to eat the moon!" Apparently, I was the same way. These days, he loves to look at the moon through a telescope. Guess the apple doesn't fall far. And now the rain talisman of life. I love rainy days. They're the perfect time to catch up on paperwork, relax a bit, and dream about my next big adventure. That is, if I have any energy left after entertaining my kids, who can't go outside and play when it's wet. Ugh, I'll take what I can get. And now the Phoenix Talisman of Life. Maybe this object would help increase productivity at Hokotate Freight. So would a better spaceship. Maybe it's my fault. If I stop miraculously surviving such dangerous situations, the president might realize we need to upgrade our equipment. And we've circled all the way around. We have completed every item in the treasure catalog. If you enjoy this type of presentation, be sure to check out my extensive thoughts on every creature in the Piclopedia. Until next time, good luck, and farewell, explorers.